It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight, as I am on Thursday nights, by Bruce Kuntz, here to talk about all sorts of things. Bruce, have you enjoyed, I know we had the All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby, but overall, a little bit of a break in the midst of this marathon MLB season?
The thing that's funny is that this All-Star break has been as busy as I've been all year, given the MLB draft and all the coverage around that. So this has been the opposite of a break for me. Haven't had to watch Dodger Major League games, but that at this point would be a nice change of pace from all the draft coverage. But we made it out. We're good. And we've got a lot to talk about tonight.
I'm just going to throw you right in the fire because these were the two debates we got into the other night. Are you in favor of players being mic'd up during baseball games? And are you ready to accept that the home run derby swing off should be mandatory to end all extra inning baseball games?
Yeah, so I think that with the mic'd up thing, I love it in exhibition games. I do not love it in real games. I think in real games it is too much of a distraction. And I know, like, if I were a manager, I would say absolutely not. If I were a player, I would say absolutely not. And then as for the other thing, it's the same kind of thing. I think that the swing off is great in an exhibition game like the All-Star game where you've got all-stars go out there. Not every team has Kyle Schwarber. I think that if you introduce that into regular games, you'd have a lot more rounds that look like Jonathan Aranda's where they go 0 for 3 than you have the Kyle Schwarber rounds.
Yeah, well, that's the beautiful thing, Bruce. We're Dodgers fans, so we're going to be sending Ohtani and Will Smith and Teoscar Hernandez and Freddie Freeman and those guys up. So that's why we should do this, Bruce. We're just going to win more games this way.
It's an advantageous Dodgers thing for sure. So in that regard, I'm on board.
All right. Fair enough. Well, tons to get to tonight. Literally the longest set of banners that I think I've ever created for one of our shows. So stay tuned for that. We are going to talk ESPYs here in just a second. We're going to do a recap of my 10 bold predictions from the beginning of the season, many which have famously been mocked by people in the chat, some of which thankfully you've forgotten about, and some of which I've refrained on taking a victory lap on, but maybe just maybe tonight I will. We're going to make 5 new bold predictions as a team, 3 from me, 2 from Bruce. We're going to recap the MLB draft. We're going to do a prospect corner. We're going to get into all that. But let's start with the ESPYs, and in perfect timing, we've got a super chat here from Michael. Says, cool that Shohei won ESPY for best MLB player. That's a layup. But for Freddie's Grand Slam walk-off to not be nominated for best play and not win championship performance seemed to me like a robbery. To his point, if you missed it, which I would count myself among the people that initially missed it, Shohei Ohtani did win the ESPY for best MLB player. Freddie Freeman was also nominated, but did not win. It's the 5th time Ohtani has won that award, so congratulations to Shohei Ohtani. The Dodgers lost best team, and Shohei Ohtani lost best male athlete. But the big one, as Michael references here, is that Freddie was nominated for best championship performance for what he did in the World Series and lost to Simone Biles. Now, Simone Biles, Olympics, I get it. But, Bruce, can you imagine the Kirk Gibson home run happening and not even winning an award for best play of that year, let alone like the decade? It's insane. I can't believe it. To me, it just goes to show maybe where baseball stands in the cultural pecking order.
Yeah, I think that when you think about it, it seems like this is the kind of award that's designed exactly for a moment like Freddie Freeman had. But like you said, like Simone Biles is in a league of her own. So it kind of makes it an interesting thing when you talk about these awards. And it's hard enough when you're talking within a sport to make an MVP decision. And then when you're talking about different sports on different playing fields, it becomes a crapshoot. So the thing that I'd be happy with here is at least Freddie was nominated, and whatever happens from there happens. But he certainly could have and deserved to win it, even if Simone Biles did as well.
Yeah, and by the way, shout out to Tyler Glasnow, who is apparently at the ESPYs. He made an appearance during the Shane Gillis intro, if you've seen that. He was there. And we were joking, like, why exactly was he there? The Dodgers were nominated for Team of the Year. So I imagine there were a handful of guys involved, but Freddie Freeman was there, Glasnow as well. So again, Shohei Ohtani will probably just continue to win MLB Player of the Year for the rest of his lifetime. And maybe they'll forget that he retired at some point and he'll just keep winning it. Who knows, Bruce?
Yeah, that's the Ohtani Award year on year, I think now. You said he's won it 5 times already. I don't see how anybody else, especially through a lens like the ESPYs, is more looking at things other than just on-the-field production. Like baseball is Shohei Ohtani's sport worldwide right now, and that should continue to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you for the super chat there, by the way. If you were here over the last, over the last couple of shows, you know that we are running a contest for anybody who put a super chat would be entered for a chance to win the Shohei Ohtani book. And I'm not sure if this person is here, but Shelly Lawrence, congratulations. You were randomly drawn as the winner of that book. So Shelly Lawrence, congratulations. You can find one of us on Twitter, myself, Matthew Moreno, the Dodger Blue account, or you can email matt@mediumlargela.com so we can get your address so we can get that book sent to you. So congratulations to her. We do have one more chance to win that Shohei Ohtani book. That's going to be over on Instagram. So head over to the Dodger Blue Instagram this week for rules and how to enter on that one. But we've got one last book to give away. So head over to Instagram and go. I see Blair saying, dang, I missed out on that. Work sucks. Well, just create yourself an Instagram account. And there you go. And Shelly Lawrence is here. So congratulations, Shelly. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the show. And again, Matt@mediumlargela, or send somebody a DM, me, Matt, Dodger Blue, and we'll get you sorted out. So, all right, let's dive in. We're going to do a little recap of some bold predictions that I made at the beginning of the season. Why I made 10 of them is beyond me, but I made 10 of them. And I wanted to find what a bold prediction is, because oftentimes when I say something stupid in a bold prediction, people make fun of me and say, you're an idiot. And which is not untrue, to be clear, but it's rarely because of the bold prediction I've made. My rules for a bold prediction are this, and this is what I told Bruce when we made them today. One of two things needs to be true about the bold prediction. Number one is everybody hates you for saying it. I have numerous of those. The second one is if people don't hate it, you have to hate yourself a little bit for believing it. If neither of those things are present, then it's not a bold prediction. I'm pretty confident that the 10 I had at the beginning of the year pissed a whole lot of people off. And I think the 5 that we have coming are very, very much in the right vein. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go just one by one through the 10 that I made. And I am going to ask Bruce and you as the chat, those watching live, those commenting after the fact, to judge whether or not this is a win for me or a loss. Some of these haven't yet been decided. But at this point, if you had to call it win or loss, which would you decide on? And again, because you have to hate yourself or it gets hated, to me, this is like hitting Major League pitching. If I go 3 for 10, 4 for 10, I feel pretty good about myself. So you tell me whether or not I survived. Okay, so number one, we're just going to talk about the one that everybody hates the most, and rightfully so. I said this, Bruce. This is a real thing I said. I said Michael Conforto is going to lead the Dodgers outfield in wins above replacement. So let me start with why I'm wrong. He's negative 0.3 wins above replacement. So it's really hard to lead the Dodgers outfield in wins above replacement when it starts with the negative. So we've got that going. He's hitting 184. That might still be the worst mark in the league. I don't know, but it's down there.
It is.
Also, Andy Pages' breakout season involved in the mix here as well. So those things are not helping me out. But Bruce, let me tell you, well, I was right about this prediction. Okay. Because holy smokes, wow. I'm right about this. He's basically the least lucky guy in the league when you look at expected stuff. And if I was half-heartedly trying to make an argument, this was honestly 50% a Michael Conforto argument and 49% a Teoscar Hernandez. Hey, what if he regresses a little bit? And that has happened. So I was right about the Teo regression. I was wrong about the Andy Pages breakout. And I think by a million miles, I was wrong about the Michael Conforto success as well.
The version of this that I remember getting from you preseason was that Conforto was going to be better than Teoscar Hernandez, and for it to be expanded out to include Andy Pages and the rest of the outfield group makes it a bit worse as well. But yeah, Michael Conforto hasn't exactly worked out. I think this is going to be as easy as any of them we look at tonight.
Yeah, he hasn't worked out yet. We need to include that word. He's trending in the right direction. All right, people. So yeah, people hate the expected numbers. Look, all I'm telling you is those are helpful. And if you don't like them, that's because they probably don't prove what you want them to prove.
There's a reason he's still been in the lineup a lot.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay, number 2, and this is probably the second most hated one, but for the opposite reason. Well, number 2 was that Tommy Edman would fall short of inflated expectations offensively. And so the point that I was making here was not that Tommy Edman is bad or would be bad. It's that we saw literally the greatest version offensively of Tommy Edman ever in the couple of months we saw him last year. And I was afraid that there were going to be oversized expectations. He, of course, comes in the beginning of the season and hits 1 million home runs. He's on pace for like 30 home runs. And it's like, what are we doing here? But here's why I'm right about this argument, Bruce. He is currently hitting 223 with a 278 on base percentage, a 392 slugging percentage. He has an 86 weighted runs created plus. Let me give you some context, people. Michael Conforto has an 80 weighted runs created plus. So Tommy Edman is marginally better than Michael Conforto offensively. Here's why I'm wrong about Tommy Edman. And if you were going to defend Tommy Edman, this is what you would say. He's playing with a fractured pinky toe. He injured his ankle at the end of April and was kind of hot up until that point. So he's banged up. And the reason that this sort of looks like it's correct is not actually because I was right, but because Tommy Edman is injured. And so to the chat and to Bruce, I present this argument and you tell me, was I right or wrong about Tommy Edman falling short of inflated expectations?
I'd say mostly right, because I think that heading into the season, like you said, coming off the postseason run where he was so good that he basically wasn't Tommy Edman and created those unrealistic expectations. And when the Dodgers signed him to the extension that he got in the offseason, there wasn't an expectation like in the organization that he was going to come out and be the 30 home run guy he started on the pace for, or be the 120 weighted runs created plus. Like, that's just not the player that he is. So if we're defining the inflated expectations that I think is accurate coming into the season as being a well above average hitter, like some people thought that he could be, then he's been below that, and that's kind of just simply facts, even though he has been dealing with some injury stuff.
Yeah, and even if he was like a 101, 102 weighted runs created plus, I would probably claim that that's what I expected. He's been far worse than that. And so, yes, he's been injured, but it's not like he's been close to even what I was arguing for either. So that's number 2. So we're 1 for 2. I'll take it. Number 3, I love this one. Clayton Kershaw in 2025 was going to be a serious contributor to the Dodgers. This is what I said, quote, just feels like poetically we are due for one last ride with Kershaw throwing meaningful innings. He has a 3.38 ERA across 10 starts. That's a 2.7 mark over his last 9. Why I am potentially wrong, though, Bruce, is it all just smoke and mirrors with Clayton Kershaw. People hate the expected stuff. The expected stuff isn't good for Clayton Kershaw. The underlying metrics are not awesome. Is that because he's the GOAT and he's figuring out ways to limit damage and actually outperform expectation, or because we're due for a regression? So number 3, right or wrong, Clayton Kershaw, a serious contributor for the 2025 Dodgers.
I think you're right. I mean, these starts that he's made over the stretch since he got healthy have absolutely been important. It's been during while the rest of the rotation has been hurt. He's been a serious contributor at the very least, in terms of he's been able to be handed the ball every time that his rotation turn comes around, and he's taken it, and he's done a nice job. A 3.38 is a place that I absolutely would have taken. If you gave me a give or take heading into the season, I would have taken that and ran to the bank. So I think on the front of expected numbers and everything, Clayton Kershaw is a guy who can be expected to overperform his expected numbers at least a little bit, maybe not as much as he has so far this season, but he's a guy who just knows how to pitch. He knows how to get outs, and ultimately an 89 mile an hour fastball is never going to turn in good expected numbers, but that 89 for Kershaw is always going to play better than the computers think that it will.
The ironic part is I might have been called more names for this one than like any of the bold predictions I made. Oh, you're a homer. You're in the bag for Kershaw, yada, yada, yada. So I'm glad that this one was a victory. Francisco, by the way, with the super chat, 0 for Forto needs to go prior to the deadline. Buddy, it's coming. Buy the penny stock now, my friend. It went from 1 cent to 2 cents, and it's up and to the right, baby. Conforto. Did I tell you the weighted runs created plus starts with an 8, my friend? We're buying the dip. All right, so we're 2 for 3. Number 4, another controversial one, but another one that I'm going to admit, Bruce, I'm feeling pretty good about. Mookie Betts, Gold Glove finalist at shortstop. I said at the time that this was a bet on Betts, the competitor, and an athlete just refuses to fail at anything he does, which if you look at him historically, that's pretty much been true of him. Here's why I'm right. Nobody can deny that he's been a pleasant surprise defensively. At worst, he is not noticeably bad at shortstop. At best, he's actually been very good. I also said at the time, and this is worth pointing out, that when I call him a Gold Glove finalist, I'm not saying he's going to be one of the 3 or 4 best defensive shortstops in the sport. It's that this award is kind of dumb and name recognition often carries far too much weight. And so it was basically a bet that Mookie Betts would be good to very good. And because it's Mookie Betts and because he's playing shortstop, he would be honored. If you wanted to tell me I was wrong about this, Bruce, you would point to some metrics that say he is not one of the top 3 or 4 defensive shortstops, that maybe he's like the 10th best defensive shortstop, which again, we all would have taken happily at the beginning of the season. So right or wrong when I said at the beginning of the year that I thought Mookie Betts might be a Gold Glove finalist.
I'm giving this one a huge thumbs up because I think the main idea behind this one was to say that he was going to be a very good defensive shortstop, because heading into the year, there were a lot of people that thought it was going to be just like last year, where there were some serious struggles, not only with just fielding position, but making the throw across. There was some legitimate reasons to be concerned, but Mookie's been fantastic. He's been one of the best in the National League for sure. He's been one of the best in baseball. I think he winds up getting a Gold Glove finalist nomination. And even if he doesn't, he's been fantastic. And the idea behind this is certainly still a victory.
And to be clear to people in the comments in the chat, like, we're not talking at all about his offense. Trust me, I have a terrible offensive prediction for Mookie Betts that's coming very shortly. To be a Gold Glove finalist, you don't need to hit. You could hit 090 for the entire season. And so if you want to say that Mookie Betts' bat somehow disqualifies him for this, then I don't think you're tracking the argument that we're making here. So that's number 4. Let's move to number 5, because you're thinking at this point, dang, this guy Jeff, 3 for 4. These were pretty crazy, bold predictions a while ago. And I might say these were the ones I felt best about. And yet I made 6 more, and that's on me. So here we go. It gets ugly here. Number 5, that Kike Hernandez would have one of his best years in a long time, that the glasses, Bruce, would be the difference. 2.5 wins above replacement. He had done that just twice in his career, by the way, only once since 2018. Why I am wrong? Because he's a negative wins above replacement player in 2025 and currently injured, so not helping himself. Why I might be right is, what if his playoff wins above replacement, Bruce, got to be multiplied by 20? Then maybe, just maybe, we would get to 2.5.
Let's add a little P before the war, a P war, and say playoff wins above replacement, you lead the league every year. So, I mean, ultimately with Kike, I felt like that he was in a good place until this elbow thing became a problem. And it was like a month before he went on the injured list that numbers just absolutely plummeted. Before that, I felt like he was taking good hacks. It was more bat speed than he had previously had. He was hitting the ball hard fairly consistently, and like ultimately with the expectations that he had, I felt like he was meeting them fine until the elbow became a problem that eventually lands him on the IL. So this is a loss. He's not even close to 2.5 WAR, but I still think that if he can get the elbow right and come back, that he can still be a quality contributor, and then hope that he can go into the postseason and just find that magic again.
We just need to move the decimal over a spot, so it's 0.25 wins above replacement, and we might get there. No promises, but we might get there. All right, number 6, and this is definitely in the running for my worst prediction. And I'm almost ashamed to put this up here, and I'm ashamed to say that, again, it might not even be my worst one. I predicted that Mookie Betts would have 30 home runs and 30 steals this year. I'll be honest, I hated this one the second that I said it. It just sounded good after Shohei's 50-50. Here's why I'm right, though, Bruce. This is what people need to understand. Did you know that Mookie Betts has gone from the 31st percentile in sprint speed to the 37th percentile in sprint speed this year? He is getting faster, and I saw that coming. Why I'm wrong? Pretty much every other reason possible. He's been terrible offensively. He is stealing no bases, and this one sucked.
Yeah, Mookie Betts is not the 2018 MVP 30-30 guy this year. The stolen base one is the part that even preseason I think I would have disagreed with you on it. It's easy to look back and say that, but the bat speed got plummeted by the virus, and that still hasn't come back. So the home runs are nowhere near 30, and then the stolen bases are the part that really were never on track.
So we're 3 for 6 at this point, and we've got 4 more. The question is, can we have any more victories? I would say, I think there's 1.5 victories in here. And when I say half, this is the one that I think we can't really answer in real time, but I feel good with the bones of it. Number 7 was that Dustin May would get traded before the deadline. Now, this sounded insane at the beginning of the season. It sounded even more insane 2 months into the season. And yet, as we sit here today, Bruce, it doesn't sound quite that insane. Why I think I'm right is I was predicting Dustin May to be slightly underwhelming, which I think has happened, and slightly might be kind to him. I think maybe he's been a ton underwhelming. He's set to be a free agent. And the other piece for me was, like, what if the Dodgers actually had 7 or 8 healthy starting pitchers around the trade deadline, Would they move a guy with no more team control who they can't send down, who even moving him to the bullpen would be an experiment, not a given to be successful, and potentially try and get back a lottery ticket or two? So that was the why I'm right case as we've seen play out. Why I'm wrong: A, is there a market for Dustin May? I think there probably would be. And B, would the Dodgers actually trade from surplus of starting pitching, even if it happened? So this one we can't fully sort of judge one way or the other. But I'm curious, Bruce, if you had to pick for yourself to stake one side or the other, he gets traded or he doesn't today, which side would you choose?
I think this is the first one on this list where I've tracked with your thought process through most of it. This one, I'm not even close. I don't think that he's getting moved at all. And I'll be willing to eat those words if he does get traded, but I don't think that there's really any chance in the world that he gets moved, because you look last year, the Dodgers felt like they had so much starting pitching. They always feel like they have so much starting pitching. And then by the time he got to the playoffs, they had like two and a half healthy starters. At worst, Dustin May, if he stays in the organization, even if everybody stays healthy, like they would gladly take that scenario if they wind up having a problem of nowhere to put Dustin May. If he winds up getting left off the playoff roster because of that, sure, it's not great asset management, but he was set to hit free agency anyway. I don't think the return they get back for him would be that great. The only way that I think he would get traded is if they found a way to get a reliever that is somewhat impactful, who another contender maybe wanted to swap reliever for starter or something like that. But just the idea of like trying to trade Dustin May and like going to the table and saying we want to get rid of this guy for prospects or something, I don't think is at all going to happen.
Okay, so Bruce is saying no, which is fair. I respect his opinion. I like the idea of May for a reliever. We're going to talk about some trade deadline stuff coming up in a little bit, but that is interesting. If that might be a way to incentivize the Dodgers, because so many teams are going to be in it that it's always hard to find sellers. Because if you're in it, you're not going to be trading away good players necessarily. And so maybe they find a team who's in it, but to your point, needs more starting pitching depth and has a reliever that they're willing to move on. That would be interesting. So we're 3 for 7. Number 8, not looking good for me. Tony Gonsolin would throw 100 good innings in 2025. Why I am right: aside from him being hurt, having only thrown 36 innings and having an ERA that starts with a 5, Bruce, aside from those 3 things, I think there's a lot of reasons to believe I'm right here.
Really big factors in the discussion there. Yeah, this one missed the mark.
Hey, you know what? In every form, if only he wasn't bad and injured, then maybe I would have been right about this one. So Tony Gonsolin, my apologies. Number 9, though, this is, I think, my last victory here, and I don't know how you could argue with this. Number 9 is that Jack Dreyer becomes a dude in 2025. And this was interesting to me, Bruce. I'm going to give you a little Dodgers trivia. Okay. Who do you think the Dodgers' top 3 most valuable relievers have been in 2025 so far?
We're talking from a WAR perspective.
Wins above replacement. Yeah, good clarification.
I'm going to say that Ben Kasparius comes in first if we're considering him a reliever.
Okay. He's tough. So I kind of moved him out, not because I don't think, let me put it this way. I don't think he would be first if not for his time as a starter. Yeah. So I'll set him aside. He is technically first on this list. Justin Robleski also appears on this list, but it's sort of skewed by the fact that they are starters. So if we move those 2 guys aside, who would you guess the top 3 to be?
Let's see. Alex Vesia first.
Okay, that's your guess. Keep going. I'll tell you at the end if you're right or wrong.
Alex Vesia, I think Jack Dreyer has to be in this top 3. And I don't know. I'm trying to think about like who has been healthy the full season. I feel like Tanner Scott has a chance to be on this list just because he's like pitched a lot, but the results obviously haven't been there. I don't know. I'll go with my top 3 will be Vesia, Dreyer, Scott.
What if I told you that Jack Dreyer was the most valuable reliever the Dodgers have by actually a lot?
Wow.
He has 0.9 wins above replacement this season. Second on this list is Vesia at 0.6. He's 1.5 times. Now, WAR, there's another decimal, the whole thing. But Jack Dreyer, again, Ben Kasparius is technically the most valuable. I wasn't going to do the work to say how many wins above replacement was he accumulating in like these fake starts that he was doing. But Jack Dreyer's literally, you could make a case, the most valuable reliever the Dodgers have had this season. Vesia, who's been incredible, is 0.6. He's second. And you were right, by the way. Tanner Scott, 0.5, is third on this list, which is going to piss some people off. So crazy. Like, that's crazy for Jack Dreyer to be the most valuable reliever. So that would be my case for why I'm right. I'll give you the case for why I might eventually be wrong. Is it possible that he falls off a cliff? That like he's a rookie and his career high in innings as a pro was 57.1. That was last season. He's already thrown 48.1 this year. So he's 9 innings away from setting a career high as a professional. He didn't pitch a ton in college either, by the way. So that would be the fear, is that teams catch up to him, teams figure him out, and he gets tired. That would, I think, be the argument against.
I believe in Jack Dreyer. I believe in the stuff that he's got, the fastball. It's a similar kind of story to Vesia of like the velo doesn't jump off the page necessarily, but it plays at the top of the zone, and Vesia's had consistent success. I think Dreyer can too. The one caveat that I'd give, like, I don't think WAR measures relievers all the best because you're not measuring leverage innings. Like not every inning is created equal, but the amount of innings Dreyer's thrown, he's pitched in good volume. He's made a couple of starts here as openers and thrown 2 innings at the beginning of the game. Those kind of outings are absolutely valuable, and I think that that falls under the dude umbrella. He's been great this year for the Dodgers.
Okay, so we're 4 for 9. Now, this one might be my worst, and you might be thinking Conforto was really bad, Jeff. Kike's got a negative WAR, and Mookie 30-30 was like not even dead on arrival. It was dead at the thought of arrival. Do you remember what my 10th one is, Bruce? Do you have any idea what's coming here?
It's not right on the tip of my tongue, no.
Chris Taylor's going to make the Dodgers postseason roster. Is this my worst one? I mean, that's the question. Other than not being on the Dodgers and being really bad, is this my worst prediction? Or do you think Mookie? I think Mookie 30-30 is my worst. Like, I think I could make the case. The reason for this was not like Chris Taylor's going to be amazing, but come on, there's no way they're actually going to DFA him. And like, he's probably going to survive, hang around, and make the postseason roster. He did get DFA'd, and he isn't very good. So you tell me, not only I know I'm wrong, is this my worst bold prediction?
The thing that's crazy to think about is that this could be the worst, even though there's no like statistical expectation here. It's literally just stay on the roster, and it still missed the mark by quite a bit. I still think that the Conforto prediction misses or surpasses this one by just a little bit, because that one wasn't even close. And but they're certainly in the same
word
ballpark.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's fair. Look, people hate the Conforto one, mostly because it's in their face every single day. I think if you look at this objectively, Mookie 30-30 is like that one. Again, that was stupid out of my mouth. Like the rest of them, you're like, well, okay, I could see where you're going here. The Mookie one, like somebody put like a 3-second counter argument to me, and I was like, it's a good point. It's a good point on Mookie Betts never stealing anywhere close to 30 bases. So there you go. So again, I mean, I'm 4 for 10 on these, and I'm giving myself a half credit for Dustin May, so I might be at 4.5. So that's pretty dang good for the criteria of how much. I mean, if you think about how much people hated, for example, the Tommy Edman one, the Kershaw one, Mookie Betts Gold Glove finalist, like some of my victories have been the most hated. So again, that's we're going to put these behind us. This isn't going to be a season-long victory lap, but it's fun to laugh at myself as well as celebrate the times that I got a couple things right here.
If you make as many bold predictions, 10 bold predictions, and you don't have some absolute misses, then they weren't bold predictions. So I think that you should feel a little proud of yourself that you were willing to go bold enough, that was truly a bold prediction segment, because some of those were absolutely wrong. And that is what has to be the case for it to be a bold prediction.
Exactly. Like you're going to go other places and they're going to be like bold prediction. The Dodgers like win the NL West by 6 games. And it's like, cool. The same prediction that everybody else is predicting. Like that, the thing that bugs me the most is when people take victory laps on takes where it's like, cool, 90% of the world was with you. Like this isn't some like ledge you went out on and you're like, you know what? I think Emmett Sheehan's really good at baseball, guys. Check this out.
Right.
It's like, yeah, everybody likes Emmett Sheehan, congratulations. So a couple more predictions I made in that show. Top 3 MVP finishers. I said Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. That's a loss. Ohtani's probably going to win the award, so I've got that going for me. That doesn't really count, but can we give a small shout out to Will Smith, who currently leads the National League batting average title by 30 points over the next 2 guys and is also second in OPS. So I think Will Smith is clearly going to finish. I mean, Freddie Freeman, if he figures it out, but like I feel like it's a clear top 3 with those 3 guys, and you can make a case Will Smith might finish second.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to, because we've been talking about it with Cal Raleigh in the American League, and like, could he give Judge a run for his money? And a big part of that argument is that he's playing catcher. The same thing should apply for Will Smith. He's a catcher. He looks like he's well on his way to winning a batting title, and he's been just so valuable this year. So I think he has to be in the conversation.
The next conversation was which Dodger finishes highest in NL Cy Young, like voting. And I think this is a good one for me. I said Yamamoto, who I think is like far and away the guy who is most likely to be atop this list. Like, if you had to guess a second at this point, it's probably Kershaw, right? Like, Kershaw's probably finishing second among Dodgers. Now, Glasnow's coming back, so if he puts together a good second half, like, he might pass Kershaw. Not that he's going to win, but I feel good about that. The third one was Roki Sasaki, yes or no to Rookie of the Year. I was in the no camp. That take is looking very, very good. Win total, the over-under was 111.5. That was the Dodgers win total in 2022, 112. Your boy said over. That's not looking awesome, but who knows? Crazier things have happened. And then lastly, we were asked to pick the National League West 1-2 finishers. I said Dodgers, Padres, first and second. So I still feel good about that. I'm not saying that was a hot take at the time, but so, you know, MVP not looking great. Cy Young, Sasaki, NL West looking good. Win total, take the under on 111.5. That was the lesson there. So that is a bunch of first half / full season bold predictions. Now Bruce gets to get in on the fun here a little bit. We've got a super chat real quick. Scarecrow06 says, great show as always, fellas. We appreciate that, Scarecrow. We appreciate the super chats, which again, help us to keep the lights on around here. So thank you for that. But let's make some second half bold predictions. I've got 3. Bruce has 2. So I'll do the first. We'll alternate. And we don't necessarily agree on all these, although I think our thinking is aligned on many, if not all of these. And I'm going to wade into the pool right here. I mentioned the 2 criteria for a bold prediction, if you remember. One is that you kind of have to hate it yourself. The second is that people are going to hate it. One of those 2 things has to be true. I'm going to say something that's going to make a lot of people mad right now. Not like maybe Tommy Edman mad, but mad. And I'm going to say something positive about Tanner Scott, everybody. So I'm just warning you, okay? Trigger warning, Tanner Scott positivity incoming. My first bold prediction, again, we're wading into the pool here. My first bold prediction for the second half is that by the end of the year, Tanner Scott has fully regained his form, and he is an absolute stud, one of the best relievers in the sport, and a guy that every Dodgers fan loves having coming onto the mound in the middle of a tight game. We are not just going to tolerate or like Tanner Scott. You will love Tanner Scott by the end of the season. We've seen the stretches of dominance, Bruce, at times this year, which is where this comes from. It's just a matter of like stacking those dominant appearances and becoming more consistent. I like that he cares. I like that, like, when he fails, he's like, give me the ball the next day, 3 days in a row. I don't care. I want the ball. I want to compete. And I just think he's too good to have gotten this bad this quickly. It's basically the short version. He's allowed 8 home runs this year, 3 all of last year. He has a 4 ERA this year, 1.75 last year. I don't think he's going to finish with an ERA under 2, but I think he's going to be a very, 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 very good pitcher by the end of the season.
The big thing to think about here with Tanner Scott is just the natural volatility of relievers. Like, you think about how far we are into the season, it's mid-July, past the All-Star break, and he hasn't pitched enough where, if you're thinking about it, like if the Dodgers signed a big starting pitcher who struggled through a month, that would be the same kind of sample size as Tanner Scott has through 3 months. Like, he just hasn't been on the mound enough to think that this is 100% the guy that he has to be for the rest of the year or the rest of the contract. And like you said, I think that the foundation is still there. The stuff hasn't really taken a step back. It's mostly been the location. There's been a couple mechanical things, and there's certain outlier numbers, like the amount of home runs he's allowed, that don't seem like that they can possibly continue. So I'm with you on this one. I think that Tanner Scott, even if he's not the 1.75 ERA guy that absolutely shut down the Dodgers with the Padres last year, I think he'll at least be back to being a closer that you don't have to wonder if that's going to be his role or not.
Do you think, do you still think he's the best relief pitcher the Dodgers have? When guys are all healthy, do you still trust him more than everybody else?
Yeah, 100%. I think he's the best guy the Dodgers have. I think he'll be the best guy the Dodgers have moving past the trade deadline too. Like, I don't think that they have anybody in-house or anybody they're going to get out of house that's better than Tanner Scott. I
agree. All right. Second one is coming from Bruce, and that is that Emmett Sheehan, I don't know why I said Sheehan, like it's like pronounce the H. Emmett Sheehan will be in the postseason rotation. Talk us through this one, Bruce.
The big thing here that takes this from a lukewarm prediction all the way into bold that isn't necessarily written on the screen right now is I think that Emmett Sheehan could pass Clayton Kershaw, where if it came down to those 2 guys for the last spot, I think Sheehan winds up winning it. I've been so impressed with his comeback from shoulder surgery or elbow surgery, and he's just been fantastic so far this year. You saw it when he went back down to AAA through 6 perfect innings, 13 strikeouts. Every time he's been up with the big league team, even when there's been lapses of control, the thing that's impressed me the most is his ability to shake it off and then find his rhythm again. And he just really looks like a polished big leaguer. And I just think that the quality of stuff that's there, plus that level of maturity that he's shown in the return from the injury, gives me the utmost trust that if there is a postseason rotation spot available, I think he's going to win it.
Yeah, this is why this is a great bold prediction, because, again, it would not be a bold prediction to say, hey, Emmett Sheehan's going to be awesome. But it is a bold prediction to say, I would say it's a lukewarm bold prediction to say he's going to pass Clayton Kershaw, because I think most of the people in the chat think Kershaw, like, they want him nowhere in there. But the other piece, there's three things. Is you're predicting all simultaneously. You've bet on a parlay here that Emmett Sheehan is awesome, that he passes Clayton Kershaw, and that one of the four kind of like quote unquote elite starting pitchers that the Dodgers have, one of those four doesn't make it to the postseason, basically. And so, again, I would not say any of those three in isolation is crazy, but I like that you've parlayed them together and you've said, yes, I'm going in on Sheehan. I'm going in on like either Kershaw dipping or Sheehan being so good that he passes him, and that either Ohtani, Yamamoto, Snell, or Glasnow, one of those four guys doesn't make it to the postseason. So I don't like it, because you're talking sort of mean indirectly about my guy Kershaw. And as I keep telling our friend Greg Bergman, if Kershaw is pitching in the playoffs, it's not because everything has gone wrong. It's because maybe everything has gone right, and Clayton Kershaw is awesome. And yet, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't hate seeing Emmett Sheehan in the rotation. And just, I think his stuff is going to play up. I think he has sort of the moxie, if you will, to do this thing. So I like it. I like it from you. Carlos has got a super chat bold prediction. He said Treinen becomes our best closer. Bold prediction. There you go. He also, I believe it was, there's two Carlos Garcias in the chat, but I believe it was the same Carlos Garcia that we see pictured here who had the bold prediction that Max Muncy does not return this season. This was this close to being on my bold prediction list, because if you had to ask me if Muncy returns, I would say I am skeptical. Let's just say that. I don't know if it's 51% no, 49% yes, but it's a big percentage on no, maybe higher than some people. So, Carlos, we appreciate the super chat. Treinen becoming the best closer, Max Muncy not returning are the two bold predictions. So, my third one, which is bold because I'm staring Ken Rosenthal in the face and telling him he's wrong about something on this one. I don't think the Dodgers add a needle mover at the deadline. And the reason this is a bold prediction is because, well, the Dodgers always add a needle mover at the deadline. Ken Rosenthal reporting today that the Dodgers sources are telling him that the Dodgers are expected to pursue bullpen help. If you watched Andy McCullough, Rosenthal's colleague, when he was on our show, he kind of said the same thing. He thinks the Dodgers are going to be active. He thinks they're going to pursue bullpen help, and that's the thing they are going to pursue. But my bold prediction, Bruce, is just that I don't think they're going to do that. And there's two reasons why. The first is I think the rotation's fine, so I don't think they're going to go after a starter. I think as much as people dislike the Michael Confortos of the world, I think the lineup is fine. The defense is fine. They're going to stick with the guys they have there, or maybe some of the prospects coming up through the system. And I actually think that adding to the bullpen, I think will be too expensive to go get like a back end guy after they just spent on Tanner Scott. And secondly, and I keep saying this, I just think they're going to have enough surplus starting pitchers who can cosplay as relief pitchers and effective relief pitchers. Dustin Mays, who are going to come out there and throw, 99 mile an hour nasty sinkers and two seamers that fall off the face of the earth. Like, I think there's just going to be enough of those guys that they patch it together. So that's a long-winded way of saying I don't think the Dodgers add a needle mover at the deadline. What do you think?
See, I was ready to put this on my list until you sent your list and it was already there. So then I couldn't put it on my list. But this is the same thing I've been thinking and saying for a little bit now of, and Rosenthal mentioned it in his article too. So it's not like I'm the only person thinking this, but the Dodgers built their roster specifically with the intention of making it where they don't have to go and overspend on prospects and go get a big reliever at the deadline or a big starter at the deadline. Like, they have so much depth on the pitching side of things. And that's usually like when they go and have to make a big move like this, it'll be a pitcher because everybody's hurt and all of that. Like last year they got Flaherty was kind of the big one. And I just don't see a need for that this year. Blake Treinen is on his way back. The Tanner Scott signing is the big one, like we just talked about. I think that I still see him as that closer that you can pencil into the ninth inning and feel okay with. If he wasn't there, then I'd maybe be on board with the idea of the Dodgers need somebody to shore up that back end of the bullpen. But right now they've got Dreyer, Vesia, they've got Scott. Like, so the lefty situation is okay. They've got Treinen on the way back, Bruce Graterol hopefully eventually, along with all the other right-handed relievers that are already there. And then, like you said, all the starters that surplus might wind up having to move. So I think ultimately, if you go and you trade for a reliever, you might wind up creating problems for yourself more than you're solving problems, just because of how many bodies would be in the room. And you don't want to create problems for yourself and part with prospects. That's not an approach that makes sense.
Yeah, and when I say needle mover, I should clarify. I'm talking about, like, I don't think they're going to add an all-star level player. They might add somebody. Like, I was reading The Athletic reviewed some of the trades from last trade deadline, and one of the ones they were talking about was the Ahmed Rosario move that the Dodgers made. And, like, I think he had like 12 at bats as a Dodger before they DFA'd him. Like, it's insane. But so it's like, I mean, do they add somebody who's like going to be sitting on the bench on the playoff roster or batting ninth? Like, maybe, do they add like a low leverage / middle reliever that's like an upgrade over, I love Lou Trevino, but like an upgrade over like Noah Davis or something like that? Sure, maybe. I just don't think it's going to be like a Duran or a Helsley or somebody like that is kind of the prediction that I'm making here. So, and part of the argument for you, somebody like you, is your next bold prediction, which I like this one. This is spicy, and it has odes. It's a scent of the Jack Dreyer prediction that I made at the beginning of the season, which I like. But you are predicting that Kyle Hurt makes the playoff roster as an impact reliever. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Kyle Hurt's already been throwing in Arizona, so he's making his way back from Tommy John that he had about a year ago, right around that year mark in his recovery. I am such a big believer in Kyle Hurt's stuff out of the bullpen. He's got the changeup that's double plus. The fastball has always been plus, and the only thing for him has always been command. And I think that his command's plenty good enough to play in the bullpen. So if he comes back and he's the same guy that he was before the elbow injury, I see no reason that he's not going to be able to go out and be a dominant type of reliever that you can slot into the back 3 innings and feel perfectly cool with. And like you said, this Kyle Hurt's return is a big contributor to my thought of that they don't need to go and make a big trade, because I think that it would be hard to go trade for somebody who's better than Kyle Hurt without parting with some of your top level prospects, because that's how good I think Kyle Hurt is. So as long as he comes back and nothing goes wrong on the injury front, I think that Kyle Hurt can be a serious needle mover for this bullpen.
Now, you're the prospect guy, so I'm kind of saying something, and it's gonna sound like a statement, and it's more of a question. He always sounded like a guy that was going to be a dominant reliever at some point, but I feel like they kept him as a starter for longer. Like, do you think because of this latest injury, are we just going to go full-fledged Kyle Hurt as a reliever, do you think?
I think this year, that's what makes sense for sure. I still think it's possible next year they think about maybe like swingman kind of thing, because he's another guy that falls under the Ben Kasperius umbrella, I think, that could take down a couple of innings at a time if you want him to. But coming back this year from TJ, there's no reason to really need to do that. So I think the best thing would be just get him back to the big leagues as soon as you can, throw in 1 inning at a time, let him spam that changeup along with the fastball that plays up to 97, 98 in short spurts. And I think that that's a really good reliever you have on your hands.
And you've got him ahead of Edgardo Enriquez, for example, as sort of on the depth chart, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think they're too far apart, but I do, because I think that I have a little more trust in Hurt's ability to throw strikes. Henriquez, he throws harder. The fastball obviously has touched 104, and he's closer to getting back, but I still think the command is a little bit more shaky there. Kyle Hurt feels like a big league pitcher right now to me. Henriquez, there still feels like there's a little bit of polishing to be done, but Hurt, I think, could be back in the bullpen tomorrow, and I wouldn't have any worries about him, like as if he was a young guy who was still trying to establish himself or anything like that.
Yeah. Los Dodgers World Series champs, by the way, asks what happened to Brusdar Graterol. In that Rosenthal piece on The Athletic, he mentioned that Graterol is expected to start throwing. I think they said in the next few weeks, next month, something like that. So
rehab next month is what they said in the article.
There you go. So who knows? I mean, that the timeline for a reliever is if you start a rehab assignment in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and next month again. I mean, we're 2/3 almost through July, so we could be talking 2 weeks. And if Graterol's starting a rehab assignment in 2 weeks, he would have plenty of time to kind of be built back up, regain his form, and kind of settle in, which that would be another huge addition. And again, that would be like a needle moving addition that comes from within, which is sort of how you're describing Kyle Hurt here as well. So, okay. Let's see. We got a super chat here from Carlos. He says, if Max doesn't return this season and the knee injury seems to be more serious, do you think the Dodgers pick up the team option next season? The key is how serious is the knee injury, I think, because if it's like something that they're pretty confident is going to go away, I think we saw enough, Bruce, from Max Muncy over the last couple of months for it's like a $10 or $12 million option. I'm sure there's a buyout associated with it. So it probably cost them $10 million to keep Muncy next year, basically. So unless he like tore his ACL and we don't know it yet and he's going to miss like half of the season, I don't see a world where they don't pick it up.
This is almost guaranteed to be picked up already, regardless of what the knee situation is. Like you said, as long as it's not like an injury that they find out is much worse than they've said and he's going to miss half the year, then maybe not. But like where we are currently, even if it's a bone bruise that they've said might lag through the rest of this year, maybe even into the start of next year, like he's a guy that is worth much more than the $10 million that he has on that team option. And another factor here too, like the deal that Max Muncy signed was a team-friendly deal. He meant to sign that team-friendly deal. Like that was a thing that he intended to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Dodgers are an organization that would kind of pull the rug out from a guy that signed a team-friendly deal, wanted to remain a Dodger, then got hurt, and then declined the option. That's not usually how the Dodgers operate for something as small as $10 million.
Yeah, and it's $10 million even with no buyout, by the way. But again, at the beginning of the year, maybe you could make a case, hey, the defense is declining, the bat isn't there. But, I mean, he was one of the best hitters in baseball for basically 6 weeks prior to getting hurt. And so he's proven that he still has that in him. All right, one last bold prediction for the second half. And I think this is the spiciest one because of the narrative. And this is my MO, Bruce. We're just going off of vibes a little bit here. We're going off past performance. We're recalling history. We're holding on to the bandwagon maybe a little bit too long. And this is where I'm going bold because I'm talking about Mookie Betts, okay? And people are talking about he's got a 690 OPS or whatever he's got right now. And you've got people that are like, I think he's going to be a 715, 720 OPS. And that's like, it's a bold prediction. 720 OPS. Screw that, Bruce. 800 OPS for my guy Mookie Betts in the second half. Put me down for this one. 696 in the first half, 95 weighted runs created plus. However, he got sick at the beginning of the year, food poisoning, whatever we're calling it. Lost a bunch of weight, lost some power. Then he fractures his toe at the beginning of the June. All the Tommy Edman defenders, which I'm for. They want to talk about Tommy Edman's broken pinky toe and then crush Mookie Betts, who had basically the same injury. We don't, I think, know which toe. I think the All-Star break was his first chance to rest, kind of reset. But here's my biggest thing. If I could get on a soapbox and tell you why I believe in Mookie Betts. I think this guy's competitive as hell. I think Mookie Betts is competitive. I think he's addicted to being competitive. That's why he bowls. He's competitive. And this is what I realized as I was researching this. Mookie Betts had been an All-Star, Bruce, every single year since 2016, with the exception of 2020, no All-Star game. You don't think that's pissing him off a little bit that he had the All-Star break off for the first time since 2016, COVID year excluded? That he was just sitting at home and stewing a little bit about, I deserve to be there. I'm that guy. I'm as good as these dudes. I'm better than him, right? This is a guy who's been a top 10 MVP finisher 7 of the last 9 years. He's been a 140 weighted runs created plus guy 3 straight years prior to this. And I know all the arguments about his struggles going back to like June of last year, because guess what? I was the guy that brought those stats to this show. Blake sent the Miguel Rojas tweet, and I said, well, this is his numbers for the last 12 months. But here's the thing that I mentioned then that I feel like gets overlooked. He had a 950 OPS in the postseason right in the middle of that. And I get that's a small sample size, but it's also against the best pitchers with the most pressure on him. And so Dave Roberts says, I think he's healthy. I think he's strong. It's just trying to figure out his offense and the mechanics. He hasn't gotten ahead by getting hot yet, but it's coming. Dave Roberts says it's coming. And Bruce, I believe it. 800 OPS for our guy Mookie Betts.
If there's any guy in baseball that you can put a bet on and feel good about turning things around, it's Mookie Betts, because like you said, he's the ultimate competitor and he's just the ultimate athlete. Mookie Betts is the gifted kid who's great at everything that he ever does. And that's how he's been his entire career. He's a guy that struggled at shortstop last year, had to get moved back to right field. And even though he's already been on the long contract, he's into his 30s, there was no reason for him to go back to shortstop. But he went to the Dodgers and said, I want to play shortstop because I failed at it last year and I'm better than that. And I know I can do better. And look what he's done. He's in the Gold Glove conversation at shortstop this year. I am 100% on board with this, that if this little break here in the middle of July allows him to look at mechanics, maybe just rest the body a little bit, it's just a matter of time. If Mookie feels like that his body's in a good enough place, he's going to figure it out again. And even if this bold prediction doesn't wind up working out, like he's not going to be sub 700 OPS. I'm willing to put the house on that Mookie isn't going to be a bad hitter the rest of the year. He's going to at least be average. And he's just the kind of competitor that I feel okay with at the plate all the time. And at some point, the stats have to catch up with that feeling.
Yep, I'm with you. So our 5 second half bold predictions: Tanner Scott becomes a dude by the end of the year. Emmett Sheehan makes the postseason rotation. Dodgers do not add a needle mover at the deadline. Kyle Hurt makes the playoff roster as an impact reliever, and Mookie Betts from this point forward an 800 plus OPS guy. So let us know. I would love to hear in the comments below what you think, which one of those you like the most, which one of those you hate the most. Again, I think Bruce and I are pretty aligned. I don't have any disagreement with any of yours. You don't sound like you have any crazy disagreement with any of mine. So hopefully post World Series, after another Dodgers victory, we can look back on this show and say, hey, how did we do on these 5? To be determined. So let's see. We got another super chat from Carlos. We appreciate that. He says this weekend, yes, there are Dodger games starting again tomorrow. Glasnow versus Priester, Sheehan versus Peralta, Kershaw versus Quintana. What are your predictions? I'll say this. I feel like 2 out of 3 of these for sure. We've got the better pitcher. Peralta's pretty dang good, so it's not disrespectful to Emmett Sheehan, but at least in the first and the third, I feel good about the guy we have compared to the guy they have. Dodgers won, I believe it was 5 straight coming out of the All-Star break last year, Bruce. You think they get off to a hot start and win this series against the Brewers?
It's going to be tough. They're back at home, and I always like them to win a home series. But this is a definitely a good weekend of pitching matchups. Quinn Priester, since he got acquired by the Brewers from the Red Sox at the early part of the season, has been very, very good. So I wouldn't overlook that name necessarily. Jose Quintana always puts together competitive starts. So I'd look at this weekend, and I'd say obviously always the goal is to try and win the series. But this is certainly one they're going to need to show up with their A game for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going 2 out of 3 for the Dodgers. Give me Friday and Sunday. I know Tyler Glasnow is not the most popular guy, but when he's healthy and actually pitching, he seems to do pretty dang well. All right, let's get to some draft stuff. If you missed it, Justin Lorber, future Dodgers, came on our show, previewed the draft, recapped the draft afterwards. But I'm glad that I get a chance to talk to Bruce because, like Justin, these guys spend a lot of time thinking about, talking about, writing about the Dodgers farm system. They also love the MLB draft. And people like me basically swoop into the MLB draft for a couple of days beforehand, read some Keith Law stuff, some Joe Doyle stuff, and then pop out. And I wait for Justin to tell me how we did. I wait to read Bruce's stuff, which, by the way, is up over at Dodgers Digest. You should go check that out because Bruce does a great job on all that stuff. But rather than just doing like a straight round by round recap like I did with Justin, which again, you can check out on our YouTube page, I asked Bruce specifically for his 5 favorite picks from the MLB draft, specifically by the Dodgers. And I'm going to go 5th to 1st. So I know you've got at least one honorable mention. So give me the names that didn't make your top 5 favorite picks. Again, these aren't the 5 best players, but the best picks as far as like person and round and situation, etc. So give me honorable mention, and then we'll go 5 to 1.
So the first HM that I had was Sam Horn. He was the 17th round pick, a right-handed pitcher out of Mizzou. The only reason that he wasn't in my top 5, if like you said, this is the top 5 picks that I like the best at their spots, not the best players that they took, but Sam Horn might be in that group if he does get signed, and that's the main reason that he's not there. Is I don't know if he'll get signed. He's a 2-sport guy at Mizzou. He's playing quarterback for their football team and a right-handed pitcher for their baseball team. Just overcame and recovered from Tommy John surgery for the very end of this spring. This is a guy that, like, if he were fully committed to baseball, goes in the top 5 rounds, but instead fell to the 17th because he still wants to compete for the Mizzou quarterback job this fall. The question here, when they first drafted him, I thought that they were going to be able to sign him and then just let him go see if he wants to play football and then come back, kind of like what the A's did with Kyler Murray many years ago now. But then Kylie McDaniel for ESPN, he wrote that he thought it might take $1 million to sign Horn, which if that's the case, not happening in this spot, I don't think. So my main question here is if he gets signed, maybe the Dodgers have his signing rights for a year after the draft. So maybe he goes, sees if he can win the Mizzou job. If he doesn't play quarterback, then they sign him in like December or something. Either way, if they can get this guy into the doors, power arm, was recruited out of high school in Georgia, would have gone in the top 3 rounds if he declared for baseball coming out of high school. That's the kind of talent we're talking about. So just a superb athlete. And if he winds up being a Dodger, then they got great value in the 17th round.
Can you unpack that? They've got his draft rights for 12 months because I feel like there's some sort of deadline that usually pops up sooner than 12 months where it's like, oh, if you haven't signed the first 10 rounds by a certain date, something like that.
Yeah, there's a signing deadline in like a week, but I believe that that's how it works, is like you can't, if you don't get signed within that week, I don't think that you can go and just sign undrafted with another team. I think you have to re-enter the draft the next year, is how I understand it, because I know that like when previous draft picks don't get signed, I know that happened to Kumar Rocker a couple of years back. He had to go back to college and then get drafted in the first round again the next year. So I believe that's how it works. If I'm wrong, then somebody should tell me, but I believe that that's how it works. And I think that kind of explains why they would go after him in the 17th round like they did, because it's kind of a insurance pick, same way they did with a few years ago with DJ Ugalele. Drafted him in the 20th round, said go play quarterback, and if he decided to play baseball at any point before the next draft, then the Dodgers would hold the exclusive ability to sign into a contract.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I was trying to look up real quick. So it'll be interesting. I mean, the thing that the Dodgers have going for him with this guy is, by all accounts, he wants to be a professional baseball player.
Right.
This isn't the backup plan to playing football. And also, it doesn't appear likely that he's going to win the Missouri starting quarterback job either, right. Unlike the DJ Uiagalelei. I mentioned the example of like Bryce Betcher was a guy that was drafted by the Houston Astros. He was the starting center fielder for the Oregon Ducks. He was also became the starting middle linebacker on their football team. And they're like, yeah, no, go ahead, go play football. You're fine. We're cool with that. And then like he's still playing football a year later. So I don't know how all these things work, but that one's intriguing to me. So that's honorable mention. Fifth on this list, you have third rounder Landon Viduric. Again, you're not saying he's the fifth best player, but just the fifth best guy that you like. I meant to mention mine. Anson Arose, by the way, is my honorable mention, just because he went to the University of Oregon and they're the best school in the world. So shout out to him. But you have Viduric fifth on this list. He was the Dodgers' third rounder. What do you like about this guy?
So he's just like toolsy. He stole almost 40 bases this spring in college, didn't get thrown out almost at all. So like the speed is great. He had 115 mile an hour max exit velocity. So the raw power is great. There's absolutely a lot of swing and miss in his game. He drew a lot of walks, which is a good thing because he didn't chase, but he was also very passive. It's one of those kind of profiles that you look at a college guy. He's only a junior, so it's not like he was a senior who just was dominating against a bunch of 18-year-olds, but it's that kind of profile that he wasn't in the greatest college competition. He absolutely dominated, and then you kind of wait and see how it translates to the pros. But the tools are absolutely there. So like you're looking at power, speed, and just those raw power and speed numbers are enough to make me very intrigued.
Okay, fourth on this list, you have 12th rounder Logan Lunsford. And I'll say this, I think you're the only person I've seen mention this guy as far as a name that's jumped out to you. So what is it that you like about this guy?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued about Logan Lunsford because I think I see a starting pitching kind of arsenal in future. When I look at this guy, the fastball sits low 90s. It was kind of around 91, 92 most of the year for Wake Forest, but it's got a lot of ride at the top of the zone. It was north of 20 inches of induced vertical break. And that's the kind of thing the Dodgers love to target. If they can get a couple extra ticks on that fastball, and once he transitions from the college ball to the pro ball, if he still lives up in the high teens of induced vertical break, that fastball can ride at the top of the zone. It's a high slot, so it's easier to get the IVB out of that high slot, but a curveball breaks off of it really well, and a nice changeup that tunnels well too. So I think if the command can take a step forward, let that fastball get a couple extra ticks, and you've got a really good starting pitching prospect in him.
Okay. So then we move to your top three, and these were names that I think people who have followed the draft somewhat are going to be more familiar with. Aiden West was third on your list. He was the Dodgers' fourth round pick, high school shortstop. This kind of felt like the guy we were waiting for them to draft from the perspective of their first few picks were all college guys. And you're like, all right, there has to be an overslot coming soon. Whether it's him or another guy we're going to talk about here in a moment remains to be seen. But what do you like about Aiden West, high school shortstop?
Yeah, he's just got a really solid overall profile for a high school shortstop. I feel like usually when you're talking about high school guys, you're talking about a very volatile profile, which we're going to get to another guy who's a very volatile profile in a second here. But for West, it's a really good bat path to the ball. He's got a solid glove that may stick at shortstop, maybe not. But either way, he's going to stick on the dirt, whether it's at third base, shortstop, or second base. And I think just the bat profile is really well. If it's 20 home runs a year, a decent ability to hit for average, like it's just a solid all-around kind of prospect profile that when you're looking at an 18-year-old who has a lot of room to grow just as a player, he's already fairly filled out, so you don't have to really worry about that part as much. I just like an overall kind of a very well-rounded sort of high school prep shortstop that you got here.
Would you say that, I mean, we're going to talk about a couple guys that maybe don't fit this mold, but it felt like a lot of these guys, you might start with the word floor before you start with the word ceiling on a lot of these prospects. Do you think that's a fair assessment of this overall class?
Yeah, for sure. It was so college heavy. That's usually what you're looking at with the college kind of guys. And especially when you look at the top two, we'll dive in a little bit more on them in the prospect corner in a little bit here. But Zach Root and Charles Davalon, those were both picks that I think have pretty high floors more than the ceilings that you're talking about. And then they, through the rest of the depth of the draft, picked up a couple guys who have the higher ceilings, and then they had money to sign them.
Yeah. Okay. Second on your list, Cam Leiter. I love this pick mostly because he feels like there might be a ceiling here. This feels like a guy that had he been healthy, had he gone back to school and pitched again, which he still very well might. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he signs. But if he were to go back and have the type of year people think he's capable of, that this might be a guy that's a first round top 20 pick type guy moving forward. Is that kind of why you have him second on this list?
Yeah, he's the ceiling guy that we're talking about. If they took the first two picks that are more floor oriented, and then Cam Leiter is the sort of little bit more risky, like ceiling kind of pick. I thought Cam Leiter might have been in play with that 40th and 41st overall selection. So to get him in the second round is certainly a win. I think that he winds up getting signed. I'm not hugely concerned with really anybody in this top 10 rounds in terms of signability. Cam Leiter, it's a high velocity fastball, just got back from a shoulder injury. He's got the fastball, a slider, curveball, changeup as well. So it's an overall arsenal that looks like a starter. The command, the strike throwing hasn't always been consistent in college, but it's the kind of profile that, as is the case oftentimes with Dodgers draftees, get him healthy, get him throwing strikes, and then you could see a guy that skyrockets up the prospect rankings in the system and becomes a really, really good starting pitching prospect. And even if that can't happen, then you've got the kind of stuff that can play out of the bullpen too.
Yeah, and the last name Leiter doesn't hurt either. A bunch of guys with that last name have done all right for themselves. Number one on your list, and I think Justin would probably agree that this was his favorite pick of the draft, and they're a high schooler, Mason Legenza, outfielder. Joe Doyle, who's one of my favorite guys to follow on the MLB draft, when this happened, he said, quote, "This is a very scary pick in the Dodgers organization. This is a 6'6" left-handed hitter who he gives a 55 power and a 55 run. I think he said there might be 60 power in there as well. So talk to me about Legenza and why he's your favorite.
There might be 60 power and there might be 60 run too. There also might be a 55 glove and a 55 arm. You're talking about tools all over the place. Like you said, it's a 6'6" prep left-handed hitting outfielder who hasn't even eclipsed 200 pounds yet. So there's a ton of projection to dream about on the frame. He controls the zone well already. There are a lot of reasons to like this. It's the kind of ceiling pick that once they get him signed in the 6th round could wind up being the best player in the entire class if everything works out. Also could wind up not ever touching AA. It's the kind of super risky sort of player that you dream about, the frame, the raw power ability, and that usually when you draft a guy that is that tall with that much just raw thump and ability to lift the ball for power, you're not going to be talking about speed. You're not going to be talking about a great glove in the outfield, but it's a well-rounded sort of profile in that way. And then you just hope that he hits enough, which I think I have confidence. Like you said, Joe Doyle, other draft people have said, like, if there's any organization that knows how to make the most out of a toolsy guy like this, it's the Dodgers.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we're going to keep the draft theme going here because we're doing Prospect Corner, and we're going to talk about two guys we haven't mentioned yet. The Dodgers' first two picks in competitive balance round in between round 1 and round 2, pick 40 and 41, both from the University of Arkansas, Zach Root and Charles Davalon. Root, let's start with him. He was the Dodgers' first pick. I kind of assume, Bruce, that when people talk about how he sat like kind of 94-ish, but touched 98, part of me wonders if the Dodgers think they can tap into that 98 more consistently, because the fastball / sinker was his worst pitch. But if all of a sudden that becomes 98 and all the secondaries are as good as everybody thinks they are, then all of a sudden this pick makes a ton more sense at number 40. And maybe isn't quite the, Landon Knack sort of high floor type pick that it feels like it's maybe getting described as.
Possibly. I don't want to sound like I'm immediately like counteracting what you're saying, but I think the fastball, that it's a sinker that it more sat in the 91 to 93 range. And then it got up to 97, but I think you're looking at this as it's a high floor who maybe might have some ceiling to tap into, but I don't think it's going to be more than a number 3 ceiling, probably at the best. But you're talking about a sinker that had a ton of, I think it was like 16 inches of arm side run. So great for getting ground balls. a curveball that really was a hammer and played well off of the sinker, a changeup that has some really good stuff to it that could develop into an above average or a plus as an off-speed pitch, and then the command is really good. So you're talking about potentially plus command, guy who that's an arsenal that I just read that usually you're not going to get to until you've had a couple of years in the minor leagues, made some pitch change adjustments, and that's a big league sort of pitch repertoire. So I think he's a guy that could move through the system fairly fast, be able to start games in a not too long of time. It's the kind of profile that he doesn't have much reason to spend much time in single A. He should be able to move pretty quick through the lower minor leagues, and high probability starting pitcher that they saw a chance to take here with the 40th pick that technically was their first round pick, would have picked at 30, got moved back 10 spots because of luxury tax violations. And you wind up with a guy like Zach Root and saving some dollars for later in the draft.
Okay, and the second guy is Davallon, and then I'm going to ask you kind of how these guys stack up with the existing system. I read this from Keith Law today. He said if Davallon can play center, which he did in 18 games this year, he is going to be one of the biggest steals of the draft. That was from Keith Law. I also talked with Justin about the Tennessee coach who was on the broadcast. He was raving about this guy. He said, I'm all in on Davallon, the way he plays the game, the capacity he has to hit, bat control, bat speed, all that kind of stuff, sort of off the charts for Davallon. So what do you think about this guy? Is he sort of still a floor raiser for you, or do you think there's something here?
I really like this pick because simultaneously, I think you're talking about a really good floor and then also the potential to tap into and expand his ceiling if the power winds up being brought along. Like you said, the bat control is really good. Barrel control is one of his big strengths. He's a good runner. He's a good defender. We'll see if it can play in center field or not. Like you said, like Keith Law said, if he were to be able to play center field, that brings his profile up by a ton, because then you're talking about a guy who can run and hit and play center field, then that's a top 100 prospect build there. But even if he winds up in left field, the question that I have about Davallon and whether this winds up being just a kind of maybe big leaguer who doesn't make all-star teams or anything like that, or a guy who could really make an impact, is if he winds up hitting for power. This could be anywhere from like 10 home runs a season, or if he really taps into that bat speed. He's not a big frame. He's 5'9", so it's not like that he's got a huge ton of raw strength, but he still is strong. And if he can hit for power in the pros and get up to like, even if it's just 20 home runs a season, then it's a really, really intriguing profile that could absolutely be a steal at 41st overall.
Are these two guys, I know you're sort of constantly tinkering with, haven't finalized any sort of prospect ranking, but are Root and Davallon going to be the highest two ranked guys in your system as far as guys in this draft class, do you think?
Honestly, I think Legenza might be, if he gets signed, I think he might be the first guy, just because I think the ceiling is so extremely high there. But these will probably be the next two. Nider is also in that group. I think Davallon might be a little bit ahead of Root right away, just because of the potential ceiling that he could grow into. It's kind of interesting to think these two picks were back to back. So it's not necessarily that like they had to take one in front of the other. Like they're kind of interchangeable. Think of it like they were taken at the same pick pretty much. But they'll be in the like 40 plus future value sort of range, which will fall in the teens probably of my prospect list.
Okay, I see TQT in the chat saying Kylie McDaniel of ESPN had them kind of in the mid-teens within the Dodgers system. So obviously they've had guys that get drafted and sort of debut higher on that list, but that kind of fits with the description you have. So there you go. Prospect Corner with Bruce, as always, enjoyable stuff. Shout out to everybody in here, by the way, over 2,100 people. We appreciate you. We're going to do a few minutes worth of questions here. So if you want to start populating the chat with questions, go ahead and do that. As you do, I have two favors to ask you. One is, if you are not already subscribed, please go ahead and do that. I said we were 100 away from 90,000. I think we're maybe 1,000 away from 90,000. I don't know. Somebody gave me the numbers wrong, but whatever we are, we're trying to get to 90,000 by the end of the month, 100,000 shortly thereafter. So would you go ahead, if you haven't already, subscribe, ring the notification bell. We'd greatly appreciate that. Live on Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, and Sunday nights. So we'd love for you to join us. The second is the Dodger Blue app. If you have not downloaded the DodgerBlue.com app, you need to. Go ahead, find the app store, DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958, something along those lines. You'll find us. It's where you can get all of our content, all of our articles, all of our game coverage, all of our videos, all in one place. So go ahead, do us a favor, download the app, rate and review. All that stuff would be greatly appreciated. So let's get to some questions here. And then, oh man, I see some food ones already. So let's see. Let's get to some of these questions. Dodgers Hub, would you be in favor of a Stephen Kwan trade? LA can also get a reliever from Cleveland in the deal as well. Are you a Stephen Kwan fan, Bruce?
In a vacuum, yes, but I don't think he fits the Dodger situation super well right now. It's kind of in the similar vein of when people have talked about Jarren Duran, of these are like really good fielding left fielders. And I think if the Dodgers trade for an outfielder, it'll be with the objective of getting Teoscar back to left field. So these don't really fit that build very well.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at sort of the offensive profile. I'm always nervous about guys that kind of ride the roller coaster. And you look at the 4 seasons he's had, and I know like the value he provides looks different than some other guys, but 125 one year, 99 the next, 131 the year after that. Now he's down to 110. And so they did go after a guy in Tommy Edman that I don't want to say similar profile. That feels way too simplistic, but it just doesn't feel like the traditional Dodgers guy, where if they're going to go get someone, I feel like it's going to be a bat that you say figure out the defense later. That feels like more of their profile. Maybe I'm in the minority on that one.
I do think Stephen Kwan is a really, really good player. And that's part of one of the problems I have with this idea is that I think he'd be more expensive than people realize, because he's got 2 years, I think, after this year of team control still remaining. I think that's right. I was looking at it like last week when this was another question asked to me. And I just don't see it as a match, nor do I think that Cleveland is really going to be looking to trade him right now. So it just doesn't really line up for me.
Okay. Ella Shiva wants to know, Miguel Rojas has been so good. Why does he get no respect? I would say it's mostly because he hasn't been all that good prior to recently. He was good last year. He's also got, some of the Jazz Chisholm stuff, I think, rubbed some people the wrong way. But obviously the Dodgers respect him within the clubhouse. And I know I've been a critic. It's been of the player, Miguel Rojas. He has not been my favorite, but I've had to eat my words because he's been really good and a much needed, very good for the Dodgers lately.
Yeah, he's stepped up when it's been needed. And like you said, a lot of his value is stuff that doesn't even come on the field. He's a very important guy to have in the locker room and have around. He helps out everybody and makes everybody else better. So that is a very valuable thing, at least even when he's not on the field. And the production has turned around. At the very beginning of the season, it was unplayable and it was really, really bad. But he's figured it out again, and all he needs to be is a below average bat, and the glove is good enough and leadership is good enough that he earns a roster spot.
Carlos, my apologies. You had a super chat here a little while ago. He says, if Roki returns, what does his role look like? Do you think he's a reliever in 2025 if he returns, Bruce?
I don't think he's a reliever, because I think that if they bring him back, it'll be because they have a spot for him to start. I don't think that they're going to rush him back. And like, if he does come back, then that'll be because they have a need, because I don't know, at this point, it's such a weird situation that bringing him back feels like a risk on some level. It sounds like they're trying to do that anyway, but he's a starting pitcher flat out, and trying to get him used to a different situation when everything has been so complicated anyway doesn't feel like something that would help.
Okay, there you go. Good answer. Let's see. Dave wants to know, Bruce, are we going to be disappointed that Brady Ebel was not drafted by the Dodgers?
He's a very, very good player. I'm going to be rooting for Brady Ebel wherever he goes, and everybody who's a Dodger fan should too, because this is a kid who grew up in the Dodger clubhouse these last few years since Dino Ebel came over from the Angels. He's been around as a kid, so I'm sure all the Dodger players will be rooting for him too. Very good player, though, so I'll be watching his career with interest.
GI asks, what's the word on Christian Zazueta? Seems like his stock has been rising of late.
Yeah, I know that we went into Zazueta a couple weeks ago on this show, and I talked about him briefly, but Zazueta is absolutely in that top sort of class of pitching prospects in the system now. You're going to be seeing a lot more of him, I think, written about in these midseason lists as he rises through the ranks. He'll definitely be jumping up quite a bit on my midseason list. So, yeah, very good command. He's got polish as a young guy, which is certainly something that's valuable. Fastball, changeup, and a slider too that looks solid. So good polished young pitcher who has performed this year in single A.
I love it. All right, let's get to 3 food questions and we'll be out of here. Richard asks, Buffalo wings at Buffalo Wild Wings or Wingstop? Bruce, are you a wings guy? Do you have an opinion here?
I am a wings guy. I think both these places have their issues when it comes to wings. Buffalo Wild Wings especially has fallen off a massive cliff in the last 5-7 years. It's nothing at all what it used to be.
So if you had to choose, which one are you choosing?
I'm still taking Wingstop. I think I've kind of soured on their dry rubs. I used to love their dry rubs, but there was one time, maybe it's just a me problem, but one time I got their dry rubbed wings and it was sitting in a like literal swimming pool of oil when I got it, and that ruined it forever for me. So now I'll get saucy sauces from Wingstop, and that's good enough for me.
I like the wings better at Buffalo Wild Wings. I like their Buffalo Dry Rub. That's like my favorite type of buffalo wing that from anywhere I've had. But I've said this before. It's somewhat controversial. I love the fries at Wingstop. Most people eat them after they've been in the car for 10 minutes. So I understand why they stink. But fresh out of the oven, the fries at Wingstop, I'm a fan of.
The thing with Wingstop fries, you got to get them well done. If you order through the app, you can check a box. And then also I sub the regular fry seasoning. I get like a Cajun seasoning. You can choose the sub for free, and that always improves it for me too.
Okay, there you go. Dong wants to know. Blake asked Evan Phillips my favorite question, which is 3 things you buy from the convenience store. And Evan said Cheetos, Dr. Pepper, and Honey Bun. He said that was a fantastic interview by Blake, by the way. If you missed it, Blake sat down with Evan Phillips. So that's up on our channel, I believe, today. And he says he's glad someone else appreciates $7 donuts. That's insane. A $7 donut's insane. I like this. I'm not a soda person. When I was a soda person, it would have been Wild Cherry Pepsi 1 and Dr. Pepper 2. So I love Dr. Pepper. I love Cheetos. Again, wouldn't be like probably in my top 3, but if you give me the variety pack, Cheetos is probably like a top 2 option in most variety packs. And there's nothing wrong with a honey bun. So I'm a fan of, I would say this is like a B+ answer for myself personally. Bruce?
I'm giving it a B because I am not awfully familiar with honey bun, but the Cheeto and Dr. Pepper combination is certainly a good one.
Okay, last one here from Richard. He says milkshake at Baskin-Robbins, Dairy Queen, Jack in the Box, McDonald's, or Carl's. You can only pick one. I don't know why In-N-Out's not on this list. Maybe because it would have been unfair and In-N-Out is too good. But I'll let you go first on this one, Bruce.
See, I really like Jack in the Box shakes. I haven't gotten them as much lately because I made the mistake of Googling the nutritional contents once, and now I just can't bring myself to put that much added sugar on my body in one sitting. But I've always really liked Jack in the Box shakes, and DQ is like a second place finisher here because I don't usually get their shakes, but like that's the place to go for ice cream. So
yeah. The thing about Dairy Queen is like, why would you order a shake and not a Blizzard? That would be your issue. And those are 2 different things. And so it would, if Blizzard was included, that would be the option. Baskin-Robbins feels like it's sort of cheating to put them in this category because I feel like their shakes are probably 2 times the price at least. Although I have had a mint chocolate chip shake from Baskin-Robbins, was delicious. So I'm just going to go straight down the middle. McDonald's, great chocolate shake at McDonald's. They do a zillion of them a year, so you just kind of assume they've got it right. So I have not tried the milkshake at Jack in the Box. So that's good to know that they have good milkshakes. Carl's, I know for a while they were doing like fancy milkshakes. I don't know if that's still the case, but just give me a McDonald's chocolate milkshake. Are you a chocolate guy, vanilla, or strawberry
guy? Strawberry is my favorite.
There you go. There you go. Amanda, related to your calorie count, said, Bruce, if not now, when?
I'm not following.
Just like why, if you're not going to eat 1,000 grams of sugar now, then when are you ever going to enjoy these milkshakes in your life?
Yeah, now is the time, but ideally the time is never. And I put it in my head. That's the problem. I need to, like, if I wait 6 months and I forget that I looked those things up, then I'll be able to do it without feeling guilty about myself.
Kenny with the right answer. Why not Foster Freeze milkshakes? Have you ever had Foster Freeze?
I
don't know where it is.
I don't even know what it is.
I want to say somebody could fill us in on it was on like the way that I would drive to my grandparents' house up in Northern California. So I don't know where it is. Somebody can help us out in the comments. But Foster Freeze is the right answer here. Have you ever had basically it's basically a root beer flavored milkshake? Have you ever had that?
I don't think so.
Oh, unbelievable. If you ever see what's that?
I've had root beer floats, but
totally. So it's basically a root beer float in milkshake form. It's fantastic. So if you ever get a chance, but we would stop there on road trips and we would grab milkshakes or freezes, I think is what they're called there, but it's basically a milkshake. So there you go. I don't know where it is. Somebody said, he said up in Sacramento, Foster freezes everywhere. So there you go. It's somewhere along I-5. I feel like on my way to Northern California. But if you ever see a Foster Freeze, great stuff there. So, all right, folks, that's going to do it for us as we approach the hour and 20-minute mark. We appreciate you as always. I am going to be out of town for the next few days, just a heads up. So I will not be here on Sunday or on Tuesday or maybe Thursday, to be determined. But I'm going to be out a little bit more for the next week and a half or so, 2 weeks. And then once we hit August, you're stuck with me for the rest of the season. So deal with it. That is Bruce, though. I am Jeff. We appreciate everybody for joining us. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already. Download the Dodger Blue app. And, of course, check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest news and notes on the Dodgers. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. As always, go Dodgers.